Hi, I'm Avery Davidson.
And I'm Kristen Oakes White. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week.
We begin with an update. You might remember my travels to Cuba in 2016, where there was the beginning of optimism for reopening trade between the island nation and the United States.
1 year and one travel ban later, not much has changed in relations between the two countries. However, TWILA's Neil Melancon recently spent a week there and found that things are definitely on the move, as he shows us in part one of this two-part series.
It's perhaps the most iconic song in Cuba, Guantanamera, the song about the woman from Guantanamo Bay. It's a song that symbolizes both Cuba and the conflict it has with its neighbor to the north, the United States. The conflict dates back before the current embargo to the Spanish-American War, where the U.S. laid claim to the bay. This tour group of mostly sugarcane farmers has come from Louisiana to find an agriculture economy that is not much different than these old coffee farm ruins that date back before that embargo. An old tractor like this is standard equipment for Cuban farmers. However, most things are still done by hand. This tour guide at this tobacco farm even said so proudly as he showed off the last of this year's crop. Machines do not roll these cigars. The work is done by hand. Randy Bracey, a cigar and scotch connoisseur when he's not running his landscaping business, approved.
It's good. I found home.
It's hard not to see the potential for tourist dollars here, especially since they have to sell 90% of their crop to the government at a fixed price. As we were leaving, in fact, there were 2 more tour buses that had to come to the farm as well, and they likely weren't here for an ag tour. Tourism, not agriculture, is what's driving the economy right now.
There's obviously a lot of people that want to go there, so that's, for Cuba, that's probably the quickest way to increase their economy is focus on the tourist industry and use that income to buy things like rice or other food products. You know, developing their agricultural industry and specifically sugarcane. They're so far behind, as you mentioned. It's going to take several years to bring that up.
It is so opposite of us. Let's take a couple of crops that we are prominent in our state and the breeding programs that are prominent. Sugarcane, rice. They're getting all their varieties from the national government. There's not a station dedicated to that in terms of a university. It's all part of a national institute.
Where there are national universities, such as the one that owns this orchid garden, they're thinking about tourism as well. Seedlings from these beautiful flowers will soon go on sale.
It smells like chocolate.
Beekeeper Randy Fair is thinking about what kind of honey you can make from this exotic flower with an unusual smell.
I'd like to have some honey made out of the chocolate orchid.
Figuring out ways to monetize everything seems to be the new revolution in Cuba. Literally, the tourists are coming in by the boatloads. And where there is industry, it is still hamstrung by old ways of doing things. You can see the hunger for it in places like this ration bookstore, where Cubans can buy food staples for the Cuban peso, which is 25 times cheaper than the cuc, a currency that is 1-for-1 with the U.S. dollar. In the market outside, they can find meats and other items, but with tourists so close by spending money at such a huge rate, you have to wonder why they would settle for rations and shortages. Ed Reeves says he thinks it will stay that way, which is why even if Cuba catches up with us agriculturally, he doesn't think it will be a threat to Louisiana.
We have the agreement with the Mexicans. The Mexican government, they can take advantage of 15% of our sugar market. I think if it becomes that in Cuba, I think that Cuba would tap into the Mexican portion of it. So I don't know how much impact it would have on the United States.
The Cuban Revolution ensured foreign investors could not buy land here. That means companies that could modernize Cuban agriculture won't invest for fear the government will seize their assets. So for now, they have to settle for what funds come in from the tourists, and with the recent ban on individual travel from the U.S., it doesn't seem like the embargo will be going anywhere, a catch-22 that Ronnie Gonsolin has an unusual solution to.
Their forte is going to be in tourism. This is too close to the U.S. We
we should once the trade restrictions are removed and the Castros are gone, we should make this our 52nd state.
A revolutionary idea indeed. For now, the natural beauty remains untouched and unspoiled here in Cuba for tourists to feast their eyes upon. While there are signs of change, for now, we're still stuck in the 1950s in our relations, even if some of the old ways are fading from view. Next week in part 2, I'll cover some of the ways in which I see reconciliation between the two countries, including a story involving two veterans you won't want to miss. And guys, one of the big things that I saw there, the big takeaway for me, was that there are very, very few small children there. And the reason is it's expensive for them and expensive for the government. They're guaranteed so much milk and food every day, and it just costs so much, while abortion is absolutely free there. So it's not a problem, I don't think, right exactly at this moment, but 20 years from now, when a generation is erased, what's the country going to be like?
I know whenever I went there last year, we saw some children, but not a whole lot as well. I'm really curious how things are going to be there going forward. And there's a part of me that was hoping that things would ease up a little bit more because, frankly, I want to take my wife there.
Sure.
It's just a great place to go for a vacation.
Well, one of the best places that I saw that sort of says how things are going is in Vinales, that mountain town. And every house is either has rooms for rent, like an Airbnb situation, or that they've got more rooms under construction. And my question is, they're renting rooms for what they get in a month's wages. So why would you want to live there if you had a house there? Why wouldn't you just, want to rent that room out and pay, whatever to your neighbor outside of town and just live there? Because you're making so much money. That's going to radically reshape things there.
$20 a night instead of $20 a month.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Neil Melancon.
Well, Louisiana rice farmers are looking forward to the day they can sell rice to Cuba. However, a bigger consumer of rice just agreed to buy rice grown by U.S. farmers.
China is that huge consumer. Industry experts believe that China could buy more than 250,000 tons of rice from farmers in the United States. As a whole, U.S. farmers grow about 9 million tons a year. LSU Ag Center ag economist Dr. Mike Selassie says that has the potential to stabilize and even increase the amount of money farmers receive for their rice, and there will also be a benefit for you and me as well.
The one thing that this is going to do to help consumers, it's going to help keep our food industry, in particular our rice industry, viable, and that's just good national security, food security for this country.
USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue signed the agreement last week, which opened the door for China to buy U.S. rice. Right now, rice farmers receive about $12 for every 100 pounds of rice they grow. So with rice harvest underway, just how are our rice farmers doing?
TWILA caught up with Jeff Davis Parish rice farmer Charles Brookhouse to see how the steady rains are affecting his harvest.
Well, I'm Charles Brookhouse. I farm in Jeff Davis and Allen Parish. Been farming since 1976. Rice, soybeans, crawfish, do a little bit of everything to try to make it. Well, our conventional rice is very similar to last year. We're in the low 40s, but which is all right for conventional. The good thing about it, the price is a little better than last year. Hopefully that'll help out. We're in the process of cutting now. Most of our conventional will be cut in the next couple of days, and then we'll move to the hybrids, which we hope will do even better. The weather hadn't really been very good to us. We fought heavy rains almost all year long, an abnormal amount of rain. In fact, here we got 20 inches in late April, which was hard on our rice crop, our levees, everything. It's not cutting weather. We really don't have any sunshine to dry, no breeze in the morning. Like today, we really didn't get any rain, measurable rain. It's just a light sprinkle, and that's a wasted day. You can't harvest with moisture like that. You never know when the weather's going to turn on you, when you'd have a front come in and put a lot of rain on you, or there's always the hurricanes coming down the road. When it's time to cut rice, we need to cut rice.
Louisiana farmers grow rice on about 400,000 acres across the state.
Getting into farming is not easy.
However, for veterans, there are grants and programs available through the Natural Resources Conservation Service. For some veterans coming back from serving overseas, simply growing plants can help give them purpose and save their life.
A citronella mosquito plant growing just a few feet away from a tomato plant. It's a great way to keep bugs away from your garden naturally. But for a veteran who has seen combat, it can do so much more.
Having a therapeutic or an outdoor opportunity provides that escape for veterans that are just needing something, a purpose, connect to some opportunity.
Jay Townsend is the president of the Louisiana Armed Forces Foundation. He also served in Kosovo and Iraq between 1999 and 2004. Like many of the veterans in this room at the Veterans Affairs Healthcare System in Pineville, he's learning about grant and loan opportunities available to veterans through the Natural Resources Conservation Service.
Farming and gardening and just being able to put your hands in the dirt and work in the land and just outdoor therapy, we find it just provides that escape, just the serenity and a purpose. And that purpose is what many veterans or myself experienced when I got out. We all go through that experience of, well, what's next? Well, what am I doing?
For whatever reason, the homeless veterans really take to taking the ownership of their own food production, and they really seem to appreciate somebody investing in them, investing in their long-term ability to sustain and provide for themselves.
Charles Claybaker is an Army veteran who suffered severe injuries while serving in Afghanistan when the Osprey he was in crashed.
I actually had punched through the side of the aircraft with both of my feet, and with that I broke every joint on the right side of my leg. So I broke my right ankle, my right knee, my right hip, and then I got a severe compression injury to my spine. All the discs are herniated and bulged.
Many veterans have similar stories, which is why Claybaker started the Claybaker Dust-Off Foundation, an organization which provides raised garden beds to veterans, even if they're homeless.
3 feet seems to be about the happy medium between somebody in a wheelchair and somebody with a back injury to be able to move around the garden and be able to manipulate everything accordingly.
Claybaker says something as simple as gardening can get a veteran on the path to finding their place and even save them from suicide.
You watch them start out with the gardening, and the next thing you know, they're applying for jobs, or they're going to look into their GI Bill or get their GED or something like that, those sorts of things.
In the coming weeks, we'll bring you the story of a veteran who used these programs to become a full-time farmer. If you would like to learn more about the NRCS or the Claybaker Dust-Off Foundation, visit our website at twilatv.org.
Still to come on TWILA, would you drop your 9 to 5 to work with these kids? It may leave you happier.
But first, an old-time country market pops up in the city with much success. Stay with us.
Farming is my way of life. I chose this career, but farming chose me.
A lot of people ask you what you do, and I tell them I'm a farmer.
I'm a cattleman.
I am a fisherman.
I'm a scientist.
I'm a steward of the land.
I am a farm woman.
I am Farm Bureau.
I am Farm Bureau.
I am Farm Bureau.
I am Farm Bureau.
I am a Farm Bureau. I now hope they're fighting today.
I hope they are. Put a Dorito right here.
I got a fish! I got a fish!
Find your place in the country and the lender who can get you there. Find Louisiana Land Bank. Financing for country homes, recreational property, farms and ranches, and agribusiness.
Before you sweeten your morning joe, before the icing on the cake, before the sugar hits the shelf, it begins with a family of sugarcane farmers dedicated to growing Louisiana for more than 220 years. The Sugarcane Growers of Louisiana, making life sweeter, naturally.
Sugarcane, sweet sugarcane.
In late July, a 3-year-old horse tested positive for Eastern equine encephalitis, a disease that can be fatal for both horses and people.
It's the third such case in Louisiana found so far this year. According to Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry, Dr. Mike Strain, the summertime conditions are ripe for the virus, which he says is never going to go away in Louisiana.
It lives in small mammals and reptiles, and also overwinters in birds and other species. And when you have high humidity, warm temperatures, high rainfall. So if you look at where we're at between 85 and 97 degrees, rain, you get in 10 to 12 days after the rain events, you have an uptick in the mosquitoes. Have an uptick in the mosquitoes, you have a surge in the virus.
Strain said encephalitis cycles with West Nile virus. So often when you see it, you will also see West Nile virus. So get those horses vaccinated. Inspired by her father's restaurant and her love of agriculture, food entrepreneur Simone Reggie opened her eponymous farm-to-table market in the heart of New Orleans.
As TWILA's AJ Sabine shows us, the market, which features plenty of locally sourced food and produce, is a return to the neighborhood market where you can find the best of Louisiana agriculture.
Nestled among the eclectic hustle and bustle of Oak Street in New Orleans, Simone Reggie's eponymous market welcomes all comers to the best of Louisiana agriculture. The child of a restaurateur, Reggie knew early on her passion was food.
While getting my MBA at Tulane, I worked for John Besh and the John Besh Foundation, and I helped start their microloan program for small farmers. And so in that, we would help support loans for small farmers in order to take their farm from a small family farm into something more sustainable.
From that experience, Simone learned that farmers did not have a lot of outlets for their products. And from that sprung the idea of Simone's Market.
Well, we have everything from prepared foods and sandwiches, like I said. We have a smoked fried chicken thigh sandwich, sliced roast beef. We get all of our bread locally. We're also working with local farmers for our meat. The chicken, we don't have a reliable source that can handle production close enough for local chicken, but we do get it from Springer Mountain Farms in Georgia.
Simone and her team source most of their produce locally. What she can't get locally, they source from other sustainable farms.
There's a lot of different farmers that we work with that are always coming around and seeing what they have. Right now is a weird time of year because it's summer, so it's hot, but we do have an abundance of eggplant and peppers, squash, zucchini, tomatoes.
Simone Reggie has tasted every single product in her market. She says prepared foods is the future of bringing agriculture to this hip neighborhood.
I have a chef here, Ashley Roussel, who does all of our prepared foods and sandwiches. And then I'm Lebanese, and my family, I used to always make Sunday dinner. And I haven't been able to make Sunday dinner since having the market. They were asking for it, so I'm like, oh, I'll just make it at the market, and people can come in and buy it. So now we're starting to do hot Sunday dinner, ready to eat, so people can come in from 5 to 8 and get a warm home-cooked meal.
Simone's Market is a throwback to the intersection of agriculture and community. In New Orleans, I'm AJ Sabine for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
Reggie has been a part of the New Orleans food scene since 2011, having worked for the John Besh Foundation. She also co-founded Cleaver & Company, a full-service farm-to-fork butcher shop located on Barone Street. For more information about Simone's Market, you can log on to our website at twilatv.org.
Looks like a really cool place. Still to come on TWILA, we'll show you why farmers are opening the barn doors to give you a real-life look at their farm.
But first, why a job with no quitting time could leave you happier than your day job. Stay with us.
You may think of farm living as a slower, easier way of life.
But ask Andy and Phyllis Thompson of Swamp Fox Farms in Holly Ridge, and you'll find their life is anything but easy. As TWILA's Tammy Arender shows us, they wouldn't trade it for anything.
This is Andy Thompson's alarm clock now.
Have done healthcare consulting. I was the CEO of a hospital. I worked for a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah, go! Instead of managing employees, he's managing goats. Go! And ducks. Oh, and don't forget Diablo, who he lets think he rules the roost.
I wanted to create something that will be here after I'm gone.
And it's something he and his wife Phyllis do together.
Kind of trying to get back to the natural things, trying to move back a little bit from technology and stuff like that, although I like technology.
Phyllis is a Spanish teacher at Lee Junior High in Monroe. Now you can add farrier to her resume. Although the goats at Swamp Fox Farms aren't dairy goats, she's already preparing for the day when they do have their own fresh goat's milk by making their own scented soaps. Today, her daughter Sarah and grandson Adrian are helping out. Today's flavor, honey and grapefruit.
I don't want to say it's a calling, it's just something that seems to call to me.
Was this my dream when I was a kid? No, I was going to be governor. There's no question about that. Well, people think goats eat anything and everything, but they don't. They'll taste a lot of things, but they prefer things off the ground, and if it's your favorite plant, they love it.
Andy no longer dreams of running for office. He and Phyllis allow the laws of nature to dictate their day-to-day activities, from bottle feeding baby Sophie to growing watermelons and okra. There's an incubator for more ducks, because duck eggs are a delicacy, of which they provide to several Monroe area restaurants. They also have about 30,000 bees, not only for pollination, but for honey. And the newest venture is a mayhaw orchard. Talk about not putting your eggs all in one basket. The Thompsons knew running a farm would be hard work and long hours, but they wouldn't trade it for anything.
My worst day here is better than my best day at any job I ever had.
For This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Tammy Arender.
You can usually find products from Swamp Fox Farms at the Farmers Market on Tower Drive in Monroe on Saturdays from 9 to 1. Or you can find them on Facebook. We'll put a link on our website at twilatv.org.
In this week's Trending on TWILA, we go online to show you what everyone was talking about on social media.
In the last few weeks, we've seen lots of posts from farmers and ranchers who are advocating for agriculture by opening the barn door, so to speak, and giving consumers a look at how they grow the food we eat.
Iowa farmer Michelle Miller, also known as the Farm Babe on social media, has more than 64,000 followers on Facebook alone. The Farm Babe does her part to educate the public about food and fiber production and to debunk popular myths about everything from pesticides to GMOs. Each week, she posts videos and articles online with hard scientific evidence to back up her claims, and she's been pretty successful in her education efforts. Check out our website, twilatv.org, where we posted a link to her page where you can find lots of good information worth sharing on your own social media pages.
And our next Ag Advocate social media superstar is Jessica Peters of Spruce Row Dairy Farms in Pennsylvania. She posted this video on YouTube where she explains why the extreme animal rights activist groups are delivering the wrong message to consumers. Jessica takes viewers to her dairy farm to show you how milk is actually produced. She says it's time for farmers and ranchers to take back the conversation about our food supply and how animals are truly cared for on the farm.
The Washington Post also published an article debunking 10 mega myths about farming for consumers to think about on their next grocery run. The article shares a plethora of scientific facts and stats to back up each point. If you would like to read the article, we posted a link on our website, twilatv.org.
And last but not least, we wrap up this week's Trending on TWILA segment by showing thanks to an unlikely advocate for agriculture, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg. Earlier this spring, Zuckerberg shared the story of his day on the Gantt family farm in Wisconsin, where he expressed his admiration for their work ethic and their farming lifestyle. Farmers and ag groups took to social media to say thank you to Zuckerberg for helping to share the story of agriculture on Facebook. The Animal Agriculture Alliance encouraged people to share their appreciation with the hashtag #FarmersThankMarkZ. So Mark, if by some chance you're watching TWILA this week, we would like to say thank you as well.
You know, I got a message from him on Facebook. He does watch TWILA every week. Every week.
Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Or was that Mark Flickenberg? I don't remember. Anyway, moving on to this week's TWILA trivia. Last time our question was, how many videos are watched on Snapchat every day? And the correct answer is C, 6 billion. This week, the question is, which food is not commercially produced using genetically modified seeds? Is it A, corn, B, strawberries, or C, papaya? To enter this week's Trending Trivia contest, simply log on to your Facebook or Twitter account and post your answer with the hashtag TWILATrivia, or you can always submit your answer the old-fashioned way at twilatv.org.
And before we go, we wanted to share a couple of great catches from this past week.
Oh yeah, the first is one you have to see to believe. Check this out. That right there is Dr. J.J. Tabor laying down next to a 383-pound Warsaw grouper. Dr. Tabor is a surgeon with the Surgeons Group at Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center in Baton Rouge. So aside from performing groundbreaking procedures like the Whipple procedure, Google it, it's way more complex than I can explain here, Dr. Tabor is really good at catching grouper. You see, this is his second state record grouper. His first was a 358-pounder that he caught in 2008. Now this is a picture of the bigger, more recent catch made at the Grand Isle Tarpon Rodeo. In the interest of full disclosure, my wife Lauren works at Our Lady of the Lake and wrote the press release for this, but I thought it was too good a catch not to share.
It's a really big fish, but you know, I know somebody who landed a better catch this weekend.
Really? Who's that?
Well, our very own Carl Wiggers. On July 29th, Carl married his best friend, Brittany. The Picture Perfect ceremony took place at the Berry Barn in Amite, Louisiana. And as you can see, Carl was a handsome groom and Brittany was the paragon of a beautiful bride. Here's a pic of the TWILA team with Carl and Brittany. Quite a catch for both of them. Right now, Carl and Brittany are in Jamaica for their honeymoon, where they are catching some rays and enjoying their new union.
Absolutely. Congratulations to Carl and Brittany. We could not be happier for you both.
Well, that does it for this edition of TWILA. Be sure to join us next week when we'll get the second part of Neil Melancon's series from Cuba.
Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org. Be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and even check out some of our Snapchat stories.
And for all of us here at TWILA, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.